Alright guys, this is the video about Destruction Warlocks and what the heck is going on in the alpha of Shadowlands and why haven't they changed and what could they do, because Destro has not changed a whole lot. So let's jump into it. Number one, guys, as you know, as all my videos, I'm going to go through it very briefly here. A lot of other videos down in the description, but I have one about Affliction, now Demonology, but this is the one about Destro. I won't go over the Warlock tab in depth. I've done this so much in other videos, but basically you have your curses back. That was the unpruning effect, a love that Blizzard has given to all Warlock specs, which I do appreciate, and this Demonic Gateway. I might get into some duels here, so we'll see how that goes, as you'll be able to see it as well. But in terms of Destro, one of the most, this has the least number of abilities I've ever seen in any class, and this is the way it is in BFA, but all the skills and abilities are kind of put together with the Warlock stuff. Now, here's the deal. The only change, again, is this Warlock talent. PvP talents haven't been modified at all, so definitely keep that in mind. Basically, the only change is Tongue Tied, where your spells spell cast afflicted by Curse of Tongues negate the healing on the caster, basically making them absorb a lot of healing. Now, Destro Warlock in general has not changed much, as I mentioned, since BFA, and I'm wondering why. Because, listen, Destro was at the top of its PvP game end of BFA and middle of BFA. Beginning of BFA, they had a kind of a rough time with Demon Armor, but otherwise they've been insane. They have been the most powerful caster, it's almost a non-disputed, you can't dispute that, unless you say Fire Mage. But anyway, they've been insane. And their rotation and the way they do damage is pretty nutty with Chaos Bolt and PvP and even PvE. Now, the way that their rotation works is pretty easy, pretty simple, pretty basic, and that's okay. I'm not complaining about that. But what I'm saying is that in Shadowlands, an opportunity to kind of change some things, make it maybe less Chaos Bolt centric, or maybe change up the rotation a little bit or something, but they didn't. Blizzard has taken the option of, let's not change it. They're at the top of the game. F it. I mean, in general, there's nothing that has really changed in terms of the rotation, except for the fact that azerite powers and azerite essences aren't there. Now, from a Destro Warlock standpoint, if you want to ramp your damage as high as you can, you go this. While you have your Infernal active, every soul shard you spend increases the damage of your next cast bolt by 8%. You stack that up enough when you have your Infernal out, and you can start doing some big, insane scaling damage. You pop that with Dark Soul, and it gets even nuttier. Now, that still looks like that's going to be the play. Now, but remember this. Now, Destro doesn't have its essences in its neck. It doesn't have Memory of the Lucid Dream, right? That was something that would refund shards easily. It also doesn't have the increased haste from Iris or other neck abilities. It also doesn't have the passive damage or the proc Infernals from the essences. This will change Destro in terms of PvE and PvP. The ramping damage won't ramp as long because no memory, won't be casted as fast because you'll be missing Iris, and you won't get those proc Infernals to give you those random bumps of damage. You're going to be playing around this 3-minute cooldown and this 2-minute cooldown, and you want to pretty much pair those together, otherwise your scaling and your spiking damage is kind of poo-poo. That's actually probably not that bad, but that's a pretty big deal. And I'm not saying that just that in itself maybe offset Blizzard to make additional changes, but that in itself is kind of impactful in a negative way to Destro. I don't know if it's going to be that big of a deal, to be honest, because they still have things like Demon Skin, which is the self-healing aspect from a PvP standpoint. They also still have Demon Armor, making them even more tanky. But I guess it's only 5%, not 10% HP. But those are still in place from a defensive standpoint. So the offensive standpoint, it may actually make Destro more boring to play because you're not casting as fast. You're not going to get as many bolts off. And that kind of makes it a little bit more boring. Now, the other thing to mention is that your azerite traits are gone. Now, Destro was focusing on getting those flash points and then getting some other things that would increase either cast bolt damage or your int or stuff like that, right? Those are gone. Your overwhelming power is gone. Those haste buffs are gone. That means Destro is going to have slower casts all around, which is kind of a PvP nerf, to be honest. But to be even more honest, it's not that big of a deal. Now, what you still have is flashover, and you also have reverse entropy. Your spells have a chance to grant you 50% haste for 8 seconds, and you also have that backdraft. Backdraft is right here. Passive Conflagrate reduces the cast time on your next Incinerator cast spell by 30%. So without those increased haste things, you still have the decreased cast time, which is still pretty decent. But in general, they haven't changed anything else, which is a little weird. It's a little strange, especially because of Affliction Warlock and some others getting some pretty big changes. From an unpruning standpoint, it doesn't seem like for this particular spec they've unpruned anything. If I'm wrong, please put down in the comments below, or if you think that there should be stuff that should be brought back for Destro specifically, let me know. Most of the unpruning came from the curses here. Now, the other thing to note is that without kind of changes, it could kind of just be in its kind of king spot again in in Shadowlands, but maybe even less entertaining to play, which is a little sad because I think Destro Warlock has been not necessarily one of the most fun classes to play, especially around a 3-minute cooldown from a PvE standpoint. Now in PvP, again, they've been slamming it. They've been slamming it, and that has been a combination of that haste and that increased damage from Grimoire of Supremacy. I personally think that this ability in itself is not that fun. I think that I don't know if they made I don't know. This whole tier is not really that crazy to me. I don't think it's that interactive, but yeah. So guys, with that being said, I mean, that's pretty much it. I don't know what the change they can make is unless they make it a little bit less focused on Chaos Bolt and they start to bring in some other abilities to do a little bit more damage, or certain things like there's Soul Burn that used to be a big deal back in the day, Soul Fire. I mean, there's other things that can be casted. The problem is right now, it doesn't feel like anything else is useful. The whole goal is build or spender for Cast Bolt, and your biggest spiking damage is around Infernal. Now, the cast time, I truly do believe there will be an overall cast time decrease. Now BFA has Cast Bolt at a 2.7 cast. Let me get rid of this. This has it as a 2.5 cast time, 2.7 on the alpha. Now that may be just because of haste, which we're at a very low point of haste because we're at level 50 out of level 60. But in general, I really wish that they would make a little bit of a different change to how Destro does damage. I don't think just having the Chaos Bolt being the only thing that does damage in PvE and PvP is really the play. Now I do appreciate the fact that Havoc duplicates abilities. Now I do think that's really cool, but the sad part is a lot of that's only for Cast Bolt. I mean, sure, Conflag is there too. I just conflag both targets. Cast Bolting, you know, like, sure, okay, not bad, but I would really appreciate if there was another ability. Something a little bit different. And a little bit of way to spice things up. Now, this is the ultimate opportunity. Shadowlands is proving to be one of the most unpruning X-Packs ever. And I would love to see, guys, what you think. Put it down in the comments below. What do you think Destro needs to be a little bit more flavorful, a little bit more fun, and not just a Chaos Bolt vending machine, especially for PvP. PvP has been a very weird spot where they're very extremely strong at BFA, but it's not really that, I don't know, some people have fun, but a lot of people are like, it's not that exciting, not that fun. You just Chaos Bolt, dead. I mean, it's a little bit, if there was a little bit more to it, it would be nice. And it would be nice if some other talents were viable. This is the spec that has been seen pretty, I mean, there's some exceptions, but from a PvP or PvE standpoint, like, you know, you run this, you're fine. You know, I personally think it would be great if some more talents were useful or ever taken, particularly for Mythic Pluses. Destro, I don't know how viable they are in Mythic Plus. I know they can do huge single target damage, even Havoc two target damage. But in general, if they could be a little bit more viable, if they could be a little bit more flavorful, I think people would really appreciate it. So with that being said, guys, there is a lot of other videos down in the descriptions, including Demonology Warlocks for you addicts out there, Affliction, and some others. And we will see you guys on the stream every day except for Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guys, have a great day. Stay safe. Goodbye.